Well, let's bring in our expert guest now. With me also is my colleague Ramesh Ramachandran, and our guest Avantans Kumar is joining us. He's a well-known columnist from Chicago, Illinois. Good morning to you as well, Mr. Kumar. What do you make of how the election is going at this moment? It's been largely peaceful, but if you talk about Illinois itself, it had turned blue. The last time it's been blue for quite some time. The last time Biden won it by 17%. How's it going this time around?
I think in Illinois is a pretty safe state for the Democrats. I don't think Republicans have won here in a while. It's a pretty much Democrat monopoly state, just like California, New York, and New Jersey. So I don't expect that to change at all in Illinois. As far as peaceful being concerned, it's usually the elections are always very peaceful here. There's no issue during the election time.
Wonderful. Ramesh, if I could come to you now. If you talk about the exit polls, just your comments on them. These are very critical states, the battleground states that the first numbers have come for. And for now, it seems that it's still within the margin of error, 3% in all of these three states.
Indeed, Gautam. Just quickly before that, for the benefit of viewers joining us from around the world, the first polls, Gautam, will close in under 8 minutes from now at 4:30 IST. That's 2300 GMT. Moving on to Pennsylvania by 6:30 India time, and then if you move westwards toward the western coast of the US, all the way up to California. So progressively we'll get to get news about the polls closing across the US. Now coming to the exit polls conducted by Edison Research, Gautam, very interesting national picture emerging. And also the specifics, if we take a deep dive into the 7 key swing states in particular. Let me give our viewers an overview of the national picture emerging, Gautam. In terms of the issues involved, 35% say democracy is the biggest issue for them, or the lack thereof.
Not the economy.
Not the economy. Economy comes a distant second at 31%, Gautam. So 35% say democracy is the issue, 31% say economy, 14% say abortion, 11% say immigration, and only 4% say foreign policy is the biggest issue for them. Now, coming to the two personalities, the two key candidates in question, Trump and Harris, Gautam, 51% across the US say we trust Trump on the economy, and 47% say we trust Harris on the economy. So clearly Trump winning hands down insofar as economy is concerned, whereas 73% say democracy is under threat in the US, and 25% say democracy, on the other hand, they feel is secure. So clearly more Democrats, it seems, voting for democracy being under threat as one of the key issues. Now coming to the one key state, to my mind, Gautam, that's Pennsylvania. Now, again, very interesting numbers coming up. 83% voters were white in this election, which means that there were more white men voting in 2024 than previously in 2020. 9% were black, which was again less than the last figure of 11% in 2020. Hispanics more or less the same at 5%. 46% view Harris favorably in Pennsylvania, down from 50% for Biden in 2020. Therefore, Harris is less popular than Biden in Pennsylvania. Whereas, interestingly, again, Trump, Gautam, 47% say we view Trump favorably. That's more or less constant for Trump for the last two elections. No change in that. So, very interesting numbers insofar as issues are concerned, and also how the viewers and the voters view the respective candidates, be it Trump and Harris insofar as democracy is concerned, or the big picture economy.
No data for women?
Yes, there are. In Pennsylvania in particular, Gautam, 83% voters were white, male, and there were no separate figures for women insofar as Pennsylvania is concerned.
All right. If I could again go to Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar, in terms of how the national picture is emerging, and it's been emerging for quite some time now, do you think that this is something that is really hitting the nail on the head, that perhaps people care more about how, the fate of democracy in America than the fate of its economy?
Well, you have to look at it this way. Fate of democracy is a concern for both sides. even Republican side and for Democrat side as well. Because for Republicans, they say that the democracy has been watered down because of all the censorship, all the freedom of expression issues that we saw during COVID time and during Biden-Harris administration time. So yes, that is a bigger issue. I haven't looked at the data, so I don't know exactly what's going on there. But previously, prior to the exit poll data that you're citing, all the indications were that immigration and economy were the bigger issues and for most people.
Okay. Why do you think it might have changed?
I don't know, depending on where the data is coming from. We are just looking at the.
It's come from Edison Research, which basically does this kind of an exercise for a number of networks.
Right. I'm not discounting what they're saying, but depends on where the data is coming. It's coming mostly from the East Coast area where the polling has been done. Right. Otherwise, we still have the Midwest and the West Coast. There may be variables over there. So I'm not sure why the difference is, but again, I'm just trying to hammer out the point that the concern for democracy is expressed in a different way for both groups of people, for those who are voting for Democrats and those who are voting for Republicans.
All right. Ramesh, do you think that particular point that Mr. Kumar is making has weight that could be a reason why democracy has become such a big concern, although most voters thought and spoke really openly about the state of the economy as well, and again divided on who should be really steering it ahead as far as the White House is concerned.
Well, Gautam, our guest would probably be correct in assessing and thinking the way he does. But that said, in the run-up to the election and polling day in particular, Gautam, three key issues stood out for many voters across the US and analysts around the world as well. Those three key issues were, one was abortion, reproductive rights, the issue of immigration, illegal immigration in particular, and last but not the least, the economy and jobs. But the survey points to a different picture altogether. They put the threat to democracy above all else, including that, as you mentioned, economy and immigration, and that, to my mind, would give you a fair indication of the of
Do you think that the Democrats really trying to get the message home about Agenda 2025 that might have hit the nail on the head?
Well, as I guess mentioning, we don't know the sample size or from where they've sourced these respondents. But if as he mentions, we are focusing primarily on the East Coast, then I guess what he's saying is correct and could be correct. That it reflects a sense of the voter sentiment across the eastern seaboard of the U.S. as compared to the so-called red states in the middle and going further back westwards to the other states which have traditionally voted Republican. But the big picture emerging as of now in this exit poll in particular, Gautam, is that it beats expectations by suggesting and pointing to the fact that democracy is a key issue as compared to even economy, immigration issues which have been bandied about for the better part of the year and more by both candidates, in particular from their respective constituents. And most people saying that they trust Trump on the issue of economy more than anything else.
All right, in any case, in any case, the life expectancy of exit polls in this case is quite short since we'll soon start getting results once the polls close as well in quite a few states, if not in all of them, and the election cannot be called, completely if it's a close one till all the results come in. Now I'm told that I can cross over to my other colleague as well in the US, Amritpal Singh, joining us from Florida, West Palm Beach, Mar-a-Lago. Amrit, good morning to you from here in Delhi. It's election night, of course, still polling going on. We saw Donald Trump coming out and talking about how he might accept whatever the outcome is if the entire process is fair. But just tell us about the mood in the Trump camp right now, considering the kind of exit polls that are coming in.
Donald Trump added a very big rider saying if the polls are fair. That means he still is casting aspersions on the whole electoral process, which he has been doing all through his campaign, trying to suggest that there is a vote fraud that is taking place, especially in the mail-in votes. That could be a tactic by him to ensure that more and more Republican voters come out and in person today and come out and vote if he raises up this bogey of electoral fraud without evidence. And I use that word very, I consider that word, and I use that after much consideration, the word bogey, that there is no evidence that he's provided. I don't speak for any county election board, but after having visited various polling stations, there is a system in place here, and it is not easy, despite what people like Elon Musk have been saying, that voter fraud is possible. To my eye, the possibility of that is very minuscule. Anyway, so that could be a tactic by Donald Trump to draw out more Republican voters for him. What is the mood of the voter? Oh, the nation is divided right from the middle. At each and every polling station that I have been to and have interacted with voters today, and also in early voting in various states like California, Texas, New York, Pennsylvania, where I've traveled across the United States, people have their preferences are based on partisan loyalties. They say jobs, economy, cost of living, rising housing affordability, taxes, etc. matter to them. To women also, abortion and reproductive rights and women's rights do matter to them. But when you ask them off camera that finally on the voting day, where do you vote, or how would you vote on? Would you vote on based on issues? They say we would vote how we've been voting all along. So the society here is very, very polarized, and in this campaign, the kind of rhetoric which came out from both sides charged up the atmosphere and divided the American society further. Gautam.
We have this particular exit poll saying that the people think that the topmost issue is democracy and the fate of democracy in the US. Now, in terms of how things are bearing out, because there have been certain delays as well in counting, time has been extended in certain counties as well. Do you think that ultimately it will impact the time period that the results are declared as well?
In very few counties, the time period has been extended after complaints were received that there were glitches in the electoral process. Most places it's ballot voting. Only very few places it's voting through machines. But so in very few counties in some states, the voting has been extended. I think the overall result, when it will come out, will depend upon how close the contest in the swing states is in particular counties, and if it's very, very close, then there could be demands for recounts. We could see lawsuits being filed. Already about 90 lawsuits were filed even before the first ballot was cast. So expect all that. But if it's a clear mandate for one party, for either party, then you could have the results coming in earlier. But my sense is that it would take days before a clear picture emerges that who will sit in the Oval Office for the next 4 years. Gautam.
Yeah, just stay with me. Let me bring in our guest, Avatan Kumar, as well. As a political observer, as a columnist, a political columnist, Mr. Kumar, what are the things that you're looking out for in this election that will give you an indication of which way might it go?
It's very hard to say right now, depending on how the elections have been held in the last couple of cycles. All it matters is those 5-6 swing states, and a matter of few thousand votes in each state. That has been the difference. Even in the 2020, it was about 40-some thousand votes. That was totally in terms of difference between winning and losing in those swing states. So I don't see any sea change significantly going on. I don't see any major state flipping in terms of from blue to red or red to blue. But we will see how it comes out in terms of those swing states. Remember last time Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, those states went to Mr. Biden, whereas in 2016, those states were won by Mr. Trump. So that's the difference is going to be. And if you allow me to address the point that you were making about the fraud and all that, you have to understand the fraud element that Mr. Trump talks about is not necessarily in terms of any kind of the fraud in terms of voting, but if you change the rules, like the rules were changed in 2020 unilaterally in the middle of the things, those are the things that matter much. For example, also a lot of censorship was there. Hunter Biden's laptop issue was not allowed to be published in the social media or in the newspaper. Nobody cared. And there's a research that suggests that if had the Hunter Biden laptop issue been allowed to carry on as a normal news cycle, that would have changed the outcome of the election. Also, as you know, during because of the COVID, the election rules were changed. The mailbox, where they are put, how they are collected, things like that. So that's some of the things that people in the Republican Party, or maybe even Donald Trump, that's what they are talking about.
But it hasn't happened this time around, has it?
Well, not in that scale. No, but we also have heard about things where non-citizens are on the voter list, right? Even if it's a fraction of, thousands of, just a couple of thousand, those are the things that raises concern and raises the, whatever you want to call it in terms of, but the Democrats have tried to, they don't allow to have ID. They don't allow to have proof of citizenship for registering for election. So those are some of the things that are always going to be coming back whenever we talk about the integrity of the elections in the U.S.
Okay. Ramesh, do you think that this sort of thing will become an issue depending on how close the results turn out to be? If they're not, which is an unlikely prospect at the moment, if you go by what's been said all along in the opinion polls, even the exit polls for that matter. But do you think that this will become an issue as we go along into the long election night and then into the next morning as well, perhaps?
In fact, Gautam, it's interesting you should raise this point because I have my own list of questions that I've been pondering over the last many hours and days now. For instance, the one question that comes to my mind is that, we've heard of conspiracy theories in various elections in the US, talk about foreign interference, of vote theft and voter fraud. As you mentioned, Trump himself has said that all parties,
well, the
both
FBI
Republicans,
itself has confirmed that there is foreign
are getting lawyered up, and 90 odd cases have already been. This battle might still be fought in the courts as we see it. But the big picture that's emerging, I want to go back to those numbers that have come up in the exit polls by Edison Research, Gautam, and that's interesting. I want to go back to those numbers. Why? Because the conventional wisdom was that economy, immigration, abortion were the three key issues. But here's a fourth issue that's trumped everything else. 35% say that democracy or the lack of it is the biggest issue for them. And more than half, 51% say we trust Trump on economy, and 73% say democracy is under threat. The question that is agitating many a mind as we speak is the U.S. ready for a woman president? Conversely, is the U.S. ready for a Trump 2.0? And the answers are not far to seek. If the numbers are correct by any such of imagination, Gautam, then we real. I mean, it's not even too close to call. It's much beyond that.
Yes, it's so divided. That because to a lot of people, if Kamala Harris wins, that's unpalatable, and to a lot of another set of people, if Trump wins, that is also unpalatable. So let me bounce this to Amrit. Amrit, a question was posed to Donald Trump about will there be violence and all that. And he snapped back and said that why would there be violence? My people are not violent. But do you think that is something that is a prospect that could materialize, considering how divided this polity has been and the kind of language that has been used through the course of this entire contest? How new depths have. I mean, the entire conversation has the discourse has gone to new depths and new lows, really, and this could all then become something that precipitates something.
That's right. First, the threat of violence, it does exist, Gautam. It is a real threat. That's why you see the Capitol Hill being guarded off, the White House being guarded off, the rails constructed, bullet-proof glasses at polling stations, snipers on rooftops, sniffer dogs. All this is unprecedented. Like never before has these kind of security measures been put. So clearly there is a threat of violence, no matter what Donald Trump says. I think I was there at that voting station when Donald Trump spoke about this. I think what Donald Trump's strategists would have told him, because Donald voted early in the day at about noontime here, US Eastern time. So there were still about 7 hours left for voting to go. His strategist must have told him that to get the undecided voter who may side with you on economy, on jobs, and the anti-incumbency may weigh against Kamala because she's a part of the current administration. But the way you've spoken about, you've derided in the kind of tone that you've used, if you tone it down a bit, you may attract that voter. And both of them really need voters right now because it's too close a contest. It's just who will win will depend upon how many voters they are able to get out, especially in the swing states. So to appeal to that voter, he might have trying to send that massive message that there'll be no violence from my camp. But trust you me, read the social media. It's a buzz with how there are camps ready to protest. Go in as protesters. Once you go in as protesters, what was December 6, 2021? It was just a protest that went out of hand, and they tried to stop
We're getting to the juncture where we begin finding out, Amrit, as to what actually will happen, because the breaking news that we're getting now is that the first statewide poll have started to close. Polls have closed, in fact, in parts of Indiana and Kentucky. The next polls will also close shortly as well, and we will then be heading straightway into counting. So right now, polls are closing in parts of Indiana and Kentucky. That's the breaking news. That was the first two regions that were supposed to close their polling, and that indeed has happened. So no delay there as such, it seems. Ramesh, if I could come to you and talk about that, it seems that now we will be getting into that phase where perhaps we will have some of these networks also calling different states for, the two camps.
Indeed, just to recap for the benefit of viewers joining us right now, Gautam, as you mentioned, the first polls have closed just minutes ago in the states of Indiana and Kentucky. That's 4:30 India time, that's 2300 GMT. And progressively, as we move westward to the west coast of the US, more states will see the polls close as we go along. The last state to close the polls would be Alaska at 11:30 India time, 11:30 in the morning. That's 0600 GMT. So we have to wait and watch how the other states, the polling pans out there. And as you mentioned, Kamala can be expected to visit her alma mater at Harvard University to spend the election day. And as the counting begins, Trump will be at Mar-a-Lago and Biden will remain in the White House. No engagements for him as of yet. So clearly, another question, a key question would be to look out for the voter turnout. In 2020, the percentage was more than 60%, which was less than 60% in 2016. So all eyes on the number of people who go out and actually vote, because that matters to both Harris and Trump. Remember,
and for now it looks like it will be more.
it's at the intersection of gender, race and class, with the working class, middle class, the upper middle class, how affluent you are, how poor you are. So it's the intersection of gender, race and class which will determine the outcome of this election, and also whether the white women, which about 30 odd percent of whom had voted for Trump in the last two elections, will they remain with Republicans or will they switch loyalties to Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party? In this election remains to be seen. Also, the way the white male will turn out to vote in this election will also hold a key to Trump's performance in this election. So all eyes on the way these demographics perform in the next several hours, Gautam.
So as poll start begins to close, let me also bring in again Avtans Kumar, our guest from Chicago. What do you make of the fact, as Ramesh mentioned, a key criteria to assess these elections will be the actual turnout, and that already we've had over 80 million people coming out in early voting, and it's quite possible that the numbers of 2020 might be surpassed as well. Do you think that will indeed happen? There will be record polling in the US this time around because of the kind of issues that have been raked up, but then there's fatigue to consider as well, because it's been a very, very long race as well. Initially it was Trump and Biden, then it suddenly 107 days ago turned into Trump versus Harris.
Yes, I expect the turnout to be much larger this time. Anecdotally, I can tell you that I voted early, and even during my voting, there were lots of people in line. So, and also there is a lot of enthusiasm about this year's vote. And I remember last time's voting in 2020 was during COVID time. And there is no such factor at this time. So I expect a much larger voting percentage this time. And one point I would like to bring to notice is also, when you were talking about the demography also, the education level is very significant. Usually, the more educated you are, graduate level or higher, undergraduate, graduate level, the more you are more likely to be a Democrat. If you are less educated, you're more likely to be a Republican. Another point I would also, if you allow me, I would like to mention is that when we talk about violence, I think we have to keep in mind that the most of the violence that happened was during the last election cycle was Antifa and BLM kind of violence that was going on in the US since the death of George Floyd. There was no violence when Trump lost. There was protest at the Capitol. There was some rioting, very unfortunate, but there was no violence from the Trump camp. And also, if you talk about the armed people, I don't think there was armed people. But you remember, if there are armed people, you are allowed to conceal in the U.S. because of our Second Amendment law. People had rifles and in the open, and there were protesting at the Capitol Hill. And remember one more thing, the only person who died during the January 6th riots was a writer who was killed by the police. So keep those things in mind when we talk about violence.
Sure, got that. Thank you so much for joining us, Avtans Kumar from Chicago, with your comments on how we're seeing these elections unfold. Ramesh, in terms of how things are going, do you feel that this election will deliver in terms of a record turnout, and that tells us about how the US collectively feels about this entire democratic process? It's not just about the divide, it's about issues that are important, and which is why people are going to turn out in the largest numbers possible.
Indeed, the expectation is that the voter turnout will be bigger than the previous elections put together. But that said, Gautam, I'm wondering whether what these numbers say what I think they mean. For instance, in Pennsylvania, the key swing state all eyes are on with 19 electoral college votes, Gautam. What does it mean when the exit polls say that 83% of the voters were white male? In terms of demographics, what would that translate into votes for the Democrats or the Republicans? The number of black voters has gone down marginally from 2020. What does that mean? How will that translate on the ground? These things, have to be factored in, and we have to wait and watch how these numbers pan out. But these are very interesting numbers, and one doesn't know what to make of them, because if the numbers, as it suggests, is that number of male white voters has gone up as compared to black voters correspondingly, then it will point to an interesting figure in Pennsylvania, which, by the way, is a must-win state for Kamala Harris. Will she win there or not remains to be seen. We'll know in the next several hours.
Yes, certainly. Biden won it by more than 80,000 votes the last time around. We'll have to wait and see what happens this time. Thank you so much for joining us, all three of you, Avdans Kumar and as well as Amritpal Singh and Ramesh, talking about the US elections that are taking place